What's going on, you loyal listeners? Thank you for tuning in to the L Squared podcast. I'm your host here, Luke Larson, and joining me today, as per the usual, my lovely and loquacious special guest who will be assisting me in leisurely launching you into levity, Old Legs.
How we doing, buddy?
Good. It's good to see you, man.
It's been a while.
It's been a while. Yeah, we took a little hiatus.
Away. We needed some time. We needed to separate.
Yeah.
October was great. I had a great time with you in October, but breakfast burritos just sound like a lot right now. Okay. I have a lot of things going on today. And I'm just thinking about that.
Look, so I don't want to go down and get breakfast burritos with you.
We needed some time, but now we are back. And I'm excited because we got some good movies to talk about. And
yeah,
I'm not gonna say it. I'm gonna say it once. But I'm not gonna mean it. But I feel like maybe just a little bit. Movies are back.
Yeah, well,
maybe.
I mean, yeah. How many times have you said that on this show already?
We have like less than 20 days left in 2020.
Yeah, I mean
we got to be close.
Yeah, well, with Warner Brothers announcement,
movies are back in your living room.
They're back in your living room. Some would say they haven't really gone. I mean, like movies, I would say the L Squared podcast is back. We also took a little bit of a hiatus, but we just needed some time to reflect and give thanks. And also, there weren't a lot of big things coming up. We knew we'd be back for Mank. And so Mank came out and we're fucking back on our bullshit.
Season tickets, baby.
Season tickets.
The train is in town. We've done an entire series about Fincher on this podcast, so go and check that out if you are so inclined.
If you have 2.5 hours to kill, great way to do it.
Great way to do it. And so yeah, we got Mank. And we got a little movie called SHITHOUSE.
Little doubLLe feature for you.
So we're back, and I'm excited. I'm really excited. There's no list today. There's no Well, we probably will argue about
that's kind of a mistake.
I don't know about what, but we're kicking it old school. We're going to talk about two movies who recently released films, and we're going to give the people what they want. So go ahead. Where do we start? What do we got?
So as you mentioned, David Fincher's newest film, Mank, came out on wide release on Netflix this last Friday, December 4th. And as you mentioned, we did do an episode about a little over a year ago, the full David Fincher filmography up to that point where we went over every single David Fincher film. So if you want to hear our full thoughts, go dig that episode up. To give the people what they really want, the synopsis of his new film, Mank, 1930s Hollywood is reevaluated through the eyes of scathing social critic and alcoholic screenwriter Herman J. Mankiewicz as he races to finish the screenplay of Citizen Kane.
There it is.
There you have it. So, what were your thoughts going into seeing Mank?
So, like you said, and I don't think this is any real like surprise. It shouldn't be a surprise to anyone, but I'm just anything Fincher wants to do, I'm just in. And it had sort of been a while since we'd seen Fincher direct a feature film. Mm-hmm. Now, mind you, he has given us Mindhunter, and Mindhunter is great. Yep. I love Mindhunter, but the last time we saw Fincher was Gone Girl, and Gone Girl is such a fucking banger.
Yep.
I think it's my favorite Fincher film. I go Gone Girl, Social Network, Zodiac, and I'm pretty strong on that. Luke, I know you're a big button head. You got that number one, right?
Well, I mean, it's I mean, you can't. There's a lot of great glory shots of Brad. If you want,
he's a button guy.
I mean, if you want shots of Brad Pitt riding a motorcycle on at sunset with a sweater on, I mean, it's hard. There's a lot of screen time dedicated to that. But I think you're right. I think I might put Gone Girl as my favorite of his two. You know, I'm a big The Game head, so The Game kind of creeps up there for me as well.
The Game is great.
So.
The Game, wow. There are a lot of similarities between this and The Game. Because I would argue that, how do we even start this conversation? So, Mank, let's bring it back. We can maybe kind of pepper in some Fincher as we go through this. But Mank, okay, so you asked my questions about what were my expectations. I'm super excited. I'm really excited. Again, season tickets. I want to see everything that he does. Was I super hyped about it? Maybe not as hyped as I would be knowing sort of what the story is about. This is about a guy who writes, right? It's about a screenwriter writing a screenplay.
Yeah.
So this is not Gone Girl. This is not Seven. So my expectations were, I guess, a little bit different, but I was still interested. I'm curious because I think this is, and I definitely after watching it now, this is probably one of the most like homeworky movies. If you really want to get the most out of it, there's like a lot of required reading that you can either do before or after. So let me throw it back to you. What were your expectations? And I guess I'll let you start. Like, what were your first impressions?
Yeah, so like you, we both kind of made it clear that we have front row seats, season tickets to David Fincher, anything he'll do. And I think we explored this in that episode when we went over his full filmography, is that he just does interesting stuff. Like he has a lot of different genres, and he just is extremely talented. And I think of him as like a pure director, like not really like a writer director or like an auteur, but like he comes from music video directing, and I think he's just a fantastic director. Almost like when in the NFL, when you say they're a great thrower of the football, I think David Fincher is a really great director, and so it's just sort of like he collaborates well with other people. But anything he does, I'm going to see and I'm going to be excited about. I would have really loved to see this in the theater. But yeah, I was excited like you. I don't think I was super over the moon like excited, just because I just haven't really been. David Fincher to me is, because he sort of has done so many genres and so many different types of movies, that I don't really have a clear picture in my head of what a David Fincher film is what the story is gonna be, or what certain themes are gonna be. So I didn't really have a clear idea. So in that, I was like, I just want to see a new David Fincher film starring Gary Oldman. My boy, big time. So my initial impressions coming out of it, probably not a surprise to people, but I really liked it. It's funny, to let the loyal listeners in behind the curtain a little bit, we were initially going to record this episode on Friday, which would have been immediately following me watching it. And if we had recorded it then, I would have said, yeah, it was good. I liked it, but because we waited, I'm actually really glad we did, because it really had time to sit with me. And the last couple days I've really molded over in my mind a lot, and I haven't really done that with movies that much this year. Like there weren't a lot of movies that I saw that I really took away from and thought about on the back end, you know, after the movie was done. And I don't know if that has something to do with watching movies at home. Maybe they just don't stick with me as much, but um, it just I really sat with it, and I was like, that was really fucking good. I mean, some of the dialogue is so old timey that it's almost like Shakespeare, where it's hard to kind of penetrate initially. So it's a lot of like, "Say, Dan, what you doing over there, man? Yeah, I'm just sitting around having throwing some pennies up in the air, taking a drink. Yeah, wow, look at your gams, you know." And it's relentless, which works. It puts you in the time period, but
Yeah.
it's kind of fast paced, and so it's sort of like it just you're along for the ride and you're kind of figuring out, but it sort of took a while to really sit in. But the last couple days, and I've, you know, uh, before I get into all my other thoughts, but what were your initial takeaways from it?
So, my initial takeaway was that of a bit of surprise. I was surprised by how little hand holding there is in this film.
Very
I think
much,
so,
yeah.
like, just, I mean, you know, going off of the synopsis you gave, this is essentially, it's about the story about a guy who writes Citizen Kane. Citizen Kane being, I, I think, like a sort of consensus number one film of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think like the next logical question is, and that I think a lot of people will have is like, okay, do I need to watch Citizen Kane to understand this film? And I would I would say almost without a doubt, yes, you do. Because I've seen Citizen Kane and
Mm-hmm.
I rewatched it yesterday. So we were going to, you know, obviously you were saying uh, we're gonna do the podcast. So we paused it, and I was like, okay, so you know what, maybe because I was already thinking about doing. I'm like, you know what, I'll watch Citizen Kane and I'll because it's been a while and let's just see what we can do. And there's still parts of Mank that I'm still not sure how it connects to the story, but I know it's important. And so I would say yes, you do need to watch Citizen Kane. It's going to help you. It might help you appreciate Mank more because again,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure like how many, you know, I'm gonna start saying 30 somethings now, 30 and belows, because I'm including myself now.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I was gonna say 20 somethings, but
Not anymore.
yeah, fuck you. Um, So I don't know how I don't know how many people have seen Citizen Kane, and maybe this will sort of help enhance that experience. I guess I'm not. Have you've seen Citizen Kane, right? Have you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. I've seen it a couple times. I think the first time I saw it was just one of those like check mark movies where you're like, this is one that I just need to see because everybody brings it up. And I was like, well, I don't really know. You know, it's like, yeah, it's a black and white movie. But then um, I've watched it a couple times, I think, and I really appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think you do need to see it, but I think maybe more importantly, you need to understand the cultural relevancy of Citizen Kane at the time.
Okay.
Whereas it's not just like, hey, this was a really good movie that came out. Like the way that it came about is just like out of legend, and the ballsiness it took to make that happen, and how it sort of almost wrecked Orson Welles' career as it also started it, in a way was kind of
Yeah.
it's sort of there's a lot there, and so I just think, like you said, lots of homework to get the full experience. So I think I think you need to see Citizen Kane, but also understand the importance of it and the importance of like giving a big fuck you to William Randolph Hearst and understand who William Randolph Hearst was and why that was such a big deal, is also a very pivotal part to help you understand Mank.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so both, I would say both movies are a story about a story. Citizen Kane is a story about a story, and so is Mank. And I would argue that Orson Welles, just his career is sort of, again, like it's more about the mythos than the actual body of work, right? I don't like, and again, this is where this is like sort of a blind spot for me. And I'm exactly with you as far as like, you know, you watch Citizen Kane because obviously you want to be able to see it to be part of the conversation that I've never had with anyone.
Yeah,
Like
exactly. I don't know if you and I have ever, we maybe
talked
talked about it. What?
festivals, we've talked, you know, we've interviewed numerous people, and not one fucking person that's ever brought up Citizen Kane. Again, but you gotta see it. And I'm not like, I don't want that to sound like coming off negative, but it's just one of those dumb things. And I did the exact same thing. You're in college, you're like, oh, I gotta watch Citizen Kane so I don't get caught with my pants down when I'm at the, you know, the bar, at the dimly lit bar, and someone starts pontificating about Orson Welles and his genius. You know, I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
But so yeah, it's, I don't know, it's curious. Like I don't know if this is the right direction to go, but how did you feel about, so Orson Welles in this film? He's not really in the film. Did you like that decision to sort of, he's just kind of this looming figure? Whereas I think you think about, like I certainly thought, I'm like, okay, so it's a movie about Citizen Kane and the authorship of Citizen Kane, like going to be a lot of Orson Welles, like, and that's not really the case. Did you like that? Did you not?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like because the film is called Mank, I like that they sort of stayed with Mank's perspective on the whole thing because like again, not a lot of hand holding. Maybe it would have helped for the people that haven't seen Citizen Kane or don't understand the relevance of it. It would have maybe helped to have more of Orson Welles in it and more of the importance of what what I liked about it though is that Orson Welles, I would maybe say between he and Marlon Brando, I would put him up there for having maybe the biggest ego ever in the film industry. And everybody likes Orson Welles. You know, he's very well respected, but I mean, you can't deny he had a huge ego, you know, and that's part of what made him who he was, you know, and part of his greatness, you know, but he did have a huge ego. And a lot of that goes into Citizen Kane, of the ballsiness of making it and taking the steps that he did. So like, I sort of like that in this film about Mank, which is like you said, it's a movie about a story, like the story of writing Citizen Kane. I sort of like that Orson Welles, who was always this larger than life figure with this huge ego, you know, I you know, beat the odds and made the greatest film of all time, you know. And you can kind of see him doing that in the background, but I sort of like that this movie was sort of like, yeah, you know, he yeah, he was there, but whatever, like, because really like he didn't write it. I mean, we know that he didn't write the script, you know. He's had the sort of the idea of the story in a way, but he didn't write it. So I like that aspect of it, of like,
according to
Mank, he had nothing
he
to
did
do
not
with
write
it.
it.
Correct.
So
And Mank knew Hearst, you know, a lot better than Orson Welles did. I mean, obviously there's always, it's a black and white movie, but there's always going to be gray there, you know. But I would assume that the truth lies somewhere in between, where I'm guessing like, because Orson Welles, he wanted to make this and he had like somewhat of an idea of a fuck you to William Randolph Hearst. And then he's like, well, who am I going to go to? The unemployed, disgraced, alcoholic, former MGM writer who happened to know William Randolph Hearst and had like somewhat of a friendship with him, kind of. So like he's gonna want to write a story that's gonna be a fuck you to him as well, and then kind of like, you know, that's kind of how I would. That's how it makes sense to me that something like that happened, but
right,
but I
yeah. I mean,
wasn't there.
I was just kind of I think, yeah, I assume this is probably very close to how it went down. I mean, you know, we assume that Mank wrote most of Citizen Kane, if not all. I mean, the
Yeah.
Winklevoss twins think they invented Facebook. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's like, who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, that's a good point. But
There's
why
a
does
lot of stuff in the social network that has been proven not to be true. But I think looking back now, he got most of it right. So,
yeah. And you can't deny, like, it's not like anybody is ever gonna think of Citizen Kane and not just think of Orson Welles. Even after this movie, no one's gonna be like, well, but Mank wrote it. Like, it's so clearly Orson Welles' vehicle and
yeah,
his thing, and it always will be, you know.
it's one of those things. I don't know. I'm curious because it would be really interesting to talk to somebody who watches Mank and is just unsure of everything. I mean, I
A
think
Gen Zer.
having seen Citizen Kane and like me being confused coming out of Mank and having to like rewatch it and think about it a lot.
Yeah.
But that's sort of just kind of, I think that maybe just goes with the territory of Orson Welles as a subject.
Mm-hmm.
He's sort of one of those monolith type dudes. Like I would maybe put him in that, like, this might be a dumb comparison, but like that kind of like Prince category where you're not going to understand all of Orson Welles. You're not going to understand all of Prince in like one day.
Yeah.
It's going to take you like a long time. And even after you could go through the whole library of things and just still being like, huh? Like, because yeah, I'll like fully admit I'm not very well versed. Have you seen I think this is another Netflix one, or at least it was one, the Other Side of the Wind?
Uh-uh.
Okay, so that's like a it was essentially Orson Welles' last project, and it's like over 100 hours of bullshit. And just some director just kind of threw it together and was like, here you go, this was his last thing. And it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't doubt that.
And again, it's just it's like a mockumentary of an Orson Welles type director who is having a big Hollywood party at his house to show his film that he's made, which he's been in seclusion, which he was. And then like the film doesn't work, and it's like the film that he shows is like it looks like the Dirk Diggler character. Like it was like film, and his wife is like the lead in it, and she's just sort of naked for the whole thing. Like it's ridiculous, but
Again,
that's sort
not
of what I think about when I think, I'm just like, oh yeah, okay, this
this guy.
it's this thing, and I don't really know what to make of it. So I had like a little bit of a preference to what to expect as like the character that we might see in Mank, but again, it wasn't. It was just kind of off to the side, which I enjoyed. So
What do
let's
you
talk
think
more about like you know, we can table like the Orson Welles stuff, but what? So I think there's two big performances coming out of this. So
Okay.
obviously Gary Oldman.
Doesn't he give A+ performances? You know.
Well, when he won the Oscar, I wasn't like crazy about.
He was good in it. I mean, it's an okay movie, but you could say that about his career.
Fine. He does Winston Churchill. Like, meh.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm like, as long as we can get him an Oscar, I'm okay with it, guys.
I suppose. But so I think obviously Gary Oldman, and he's in pretty much every scene. The other one I was like really blown away by, Amanda Seyfried.
Same.
Which,
yeah,
wow. So her character, and this is another one that sort of you need to do your homework on a little bit, plays the character of Marion Davies, who again, I just sort of like assumed was in Citizen Kane, but I actually sort of think that she is a character in Citizen Kane, not actually like based on, right?
Right. I believe that Citizen Kane's wife was like based on
The second
her.
wife,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah.
Am I seeing that? Okay.
I think so.
Okay. This is like, but these are connections I didn't really make, and had I not watched it again. So I
Sure.
don't know. I was blown away by both. I'm kind of curious, like, what did you? The performances here are obviously really good.
Mm-hmm.
How did you come away with it?
Yeah, I thought the same thing. Those two really stood out. Gary Oldman, great job. He seemed like he could have possibly actually been drunk in a few scenes. I did think that. I was like, he might actually be drunk.
I had a little. They got a little bit more booze as the movie went on, but
Uh-huh.
I was actually counting because I'm like, okay, like I get it, like he's gonna be an alcoholic, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not till the 41-minute mark that we actually see a drink in his hand, and I was
Oh,
like,
wow.
interesting. So I
Okay.
could have used a little bit more booze.
All right. Wow.
But it did deliver in the end.
It did, yeah.
And I always think like maybe this how you feel like when you potentially invite me over to a dinner party?
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
this
Yep.
is sort of, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
William Randolph Hearst, and you're like, ah, man, yeah.
I thought you were gonna say I'm Mank's wife, and you're like, why do you stay with me? I'm like, I don't know. Good question.
That is, that's actually, no, that's probably even better. You are Portera, so.
I mean, to answer your question, yeah, the performances. Amanda Seyfried is kind of. It seems like this is maybe mean to say, but it seems like she's done a lot of eye acting. Like her eyes are so phenomenal that she can just kind of get away with just having phenomenal eyes, and
Mean
you're
Girls,
just Mean
right?
Girls. Yeah, right. That's probably her best performance until
Yeah.
this. Um, but uh, she's just so gorgeous. Her eyes are just incredible. But it's just sort of like she is one where I just never really thought of her as an elite actress, I guess. And
Oh, well, I mean, that's where we differ, because I've been pining on this podcast to talk about Mamma Mia 2, Here We Go Again for years. And I
it
keep
has actually been years now.
It has been, and it's a great film, and I'd love to talk about it. And if we're gonna have an Amanda Seyfried moment, and I can sneak it in, thank you, because I
Oh.
honestly I think she might win the Oscar for this. The walk and talk that she has with Gary Oldman at the William Randolph Hearst birthday party, or it's like a birthday party for somebody, was just fucking top notch.
Yeah.
I've been on like a real bender of just watching good walk and talk movies, and we'll get to another one later with Shithouse. But I could have just
Woody Allen.
Let's just stay here. Let's stay out here on
In the
the terrace.
moonlight. Yeah.
And it was great. I loved it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that there's a way that I think probably some of the background actors kind of got caught up in the old timey accent. You can kind of become a caricature, and just sort of hide behind that and not give a true performance of just like, say there, how you doing there, Mank? Ah, good to see you. And that works for background probably, but I would assume it's probably easy. It can be easy to sort of hide behind that. But I was just blown away by how real of a performance she gave, and Gary Oldman as well, through like it felt very naturalistic, and the accent felt right, but it also felt very comfortable, and the conversations they had between each other, like you said, didn't feel out of place or weird, and they both were
like
just
she's doing like a Queens thing, which
yeah.
And for the historical perspective, again, this is something I didn't know going in, but Marion Davies was like a pretty famous like silent actor, and so you get like you get the thing where it's like, oh my god, this is like The Artist all over again, where it's like, would this work? like
Yeah.
in like a, you know, a real film. And yeah.
What did you think about Mank's character arc, the character arc of the main character?
Well, I I do love that he had to get a little wet to finish Citizen Kane. He had to dive into the sauce. He wasn't, you know,
That is a lot like doing this podcast. Where
I like my podcasters to get a little wet and have a couple vices here and there, and he certainly has that. I just feel like everything from like 1930 to like, I don't know, like sort of the end of rock and roll, 97, 98, was just fueled by like liquor and pills. And I'm just like, man, like how did we come up with stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Like the same thing. Like, I mean, you know, everyone in the world is watching Queen's Gambit, and I love that show. I would have loved it even better if Harmon would have had to get wet at the end to beat the Russian. He's like, I can't do this sober. I gotta dive in. I gotta embrace my demons. And so it's an interesting arc. There's just this thing. I don't know if it's like also the Mad Men effect too, where it's just even at the lowest lows. I mean, when he's like the whole Don Quixote speech is like pretty fucking awesome, you know?
Great scene. Yeah. So good.
Yeah.
And yeah, if that's the lowest low that you're getting invited to a private party.
Yeah, yeah. And he's sort of like, I mean, I guess you could say that he you know, he fumbles the ball on the 1 yard line with the puke at the end, but you know, it makes sense, right? This is before a time, before rehab, before I mean, I don't think there's not really any, even his wife, poor Sarah, is, I would say, enabling him. I mean, she's sort of a tragic character in that at that point in time, there's not really a choice but to just kind of go along with it. And it was a different time, I guess. I mean,
definitely pre-therapy for sure.
Yeah. So I don't. What were your thoughts, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the things that stuck in my craw that I really ruminated on. Was I kind of like it's a really good point you bring up about white privilege. So, I mean, having what problems to have when you're a rich straight white man who's an alcoholic but still is, you know, whatever, living an extremely privileged life, even through the Depression, was extremely privileged. So that's a great point you bring up. But I do kind of like how it's sort of he is he's just sort of getting by having a good time. Like he's just a drunk, and you know, I love that scene where they go in and they just shit out a movie pitch because they had the meeting and they're all sitting around gambling and they're like, oh shit, we got to go pitch that thing, and they make it up on the spot as they go back and forth. And I was like, that's so old legs. Like that would so be you, just sitting around gambling all day, and then you're like, oh fuck, we got to go do this thing.
I mean, boy, you want to talk about relating to a movie character. In 2016, I found myself, I was drunk on drinking I can't even think of I haven't had them since. I was drinking Moscow Mules with friend of the pod, Uncle Chuck. And
I remember that phase of old legs.
I kept doubling down on Hillary, and I honestly, God, it was the exact same. The numbers were coming in, and I couldn't believe it. And again, a little hammered, and I lost a lot of money on that election. And I was like, wow, I've been here. Mank, I feel you, dog. Like, so
wow,
that's a moment there that we shared. But hey, I'm turned it around a little bit.
Yeah. It took a while, but you got there.
I can relate. Okay.
Yeah.
I can actually say I've been there.
I actually have been in that almost exact same situation.
Yeah, it's like I saw the degenerate wheels turning in his head. I'm like, oh, he's gonna fucking double down. There's no question in my mind. Like,
you're like, I know that look.
He is doubling down on the gambling debt that was settled as a favor. That is degeneracy like 11 out of 10, which I love and I respect.
Yeah, and you've been there and you'll be there again.
So
yeah, you'll be there again. But I like that he's just kind of getting by, having a good time, and doesn't really have to face himself or other people because he's like well liked, because he's fun to be around. He's just kind of a guy who says what he thinks, and people like having him around. And he kind of
knows it, right?
And he knows it. He knows that's who he is, and he knows not to push the envelope. He knows that he's got a good thing going, and just kind of he likes that life. But then the depression happens, people are getting laid off and politics are starting to come into it. And he's realizing that this kind of nice setup he had before isn't necessarily always going to be there. And he just kind of wants to keep certain things out, and he tries to find his morals and stand up for things. And he just does. I don't really think he had the capacity to do it. And it ended up getting him kicked out of the luxury that he was used to. And then this redemption of like him being, and it's kind of an interesting redemption, is that he's like, he gets, picked up by Orson Welles, asks him to write this, and he's like sort of in seclusion, and well, whatever, he gets in this car wreck, whatever it is, but he's like, but what he does is he makes his masterpiece, right? He writes the best thing he's ever written. Everybody says that he puts everything into it. And then at the end, he's still sort of like, it would have been, I think that he and Orson Welles kind of had an understanding that he would write it and then kind of walk away and let Orson Welles take credit for it. Because he needed the money.
He needed the money, and he had nowhere else to go, and he had no ways of finding work, being sort of ostracized by the most powerful people in Hollywood. So yes, of course, he needed to sort of bend to whatever will that Orson, might have had, or any of the stipulations. But yeah,
so I like that in the end he didn't take the money and instead wanted to finally be like recognized, or like, this is me, I actually did something worthwhile that wasn't like degenerate. And his everlasting prize is that he's a footnote, like, oh, he also technically wrote Citizen Kane, and everybody's like, really? Well, I thought that was Orson Welles. That's kind of the legacy he's left with.
In the internet age, yes, he has been credited. I don't think he's in the credit roll for Citizen Kane.
I don't know either.
I mean, when I watched it last night, so he's there and he's not, right? And it's he's recognized. It's interesting. I mean, this film sort of has like this is gonna sound not of Fincher's ilk, but like sort of a 30 for 30 feel, where it's like, you probably have at least heard of the story, but here's sort of how it went. And I think that's good. It's a worthwhile story, and I'm pretty surprised how they were able to pull this off, right? Again, the premise is a screenwriter writing a screenplay. So that's again, it's not exactly Gone Girl.
Right? Yeah. But I think I will definitely watch it again. I mean, final thoughts is that I really love that, like you said, there wasn't much hand holding at all. You had to do some research, and I'm excited to watch it again. to pick up on different things, but also just because the editing in this is phenomenal. I mean, the sound mixing to make the audio sound like it's from the 30s, like recorded on shitty mics.
Trent Reznor, man.
Trent Reznor, yeah, he's good.
Him and Fincher, they are like the buddy cop duo that we never knew we wanted. And
yeah,
you know, I do sort of wish we could have just played like The Social Network over this, you know. Like, you know, I get it, it's the 30s, but just I don't know, let Reznor cook a little bit. But it was good, yeah.
Yeah. So what were your final thoughts?
Final thoughts, I enjoyed it. I liked it. I think that again, it's a film that's going to help you sort of understand a part of Hollywood and sort of a story in Hollywood that I think should be told if you really want to understand like the history of it. There's a lot here to really chew on, like you were saying. I think I'm really exciting. I sort of held off on looking at reviews or reading about it, listening, you know, to things about it, just because I wanted to sort of have this conversation with you first and kind of go from. But I'm assuming that I'm gonna read and, you know, hear things from smarter people than us that are really going to feel like, oh, okay, like,
oh, duh.
I mean, just looking at, I mean, just looking at the, you know, the IMDb here, like this screenplay was written by Jack Fincher, so David Fincher's dad, right?
Weird.
So I don't know what that means, but there's like this whole authorship thing, and then I mean, we haven't even really touched on it. I don't know if it's really worth it here, but you know, the film is about the movie industry, and this movie's on Netflix, right?
Right.
Like you said, it's not in the theaters, you know, and so I don't know if there's like things to read into there, but
yeah, I'm just glad it didn't turn into Trumbo. You know, did you ever see Trumbo?
No, I did not see Trumbo.
Well, it's not, it's whatever. It's not like it's a bad movie, but it's just so paint by numbers and just like, well, I'm Dalton Trumbo and I was forced to not write movies because I was labeled a communist. You know what a communist is, son? And it's just like very much like, it's just so much in your face and doesn't feel real at all. And like, feels like just such a movie, you know. And I'm really glad that this just didn't turn into Trumbo. That's a review for you. Put that on the poster. I'm glad this didn't turn into Trumbo. It wasn't Trumbo, and I'm happy about that.
I love it. Yeah. So yeah, check it out, and also watch Citizen Kane. If you're, I don't want to sound like high and mighty, and again, it's not required. I get annoyed with like the idea that it's required. I've been waiting like 15 years to talk about Citizen Kane. This is the first time you and I have probably ever talked about it, and we've hardly even hit on it. But yeah, go check it out, find out what Rosebud is, and yeah, watch Mank.
All right, on to the second film in our doubLLe feature here.
Yes.
One that was described to me as, quote, the most Luke movie I've seen in a while. A movie that Old Legs was persistent about me watching. It wasn't just like, hey, I saw this movie. He was like, I will not rest until you have watched this film.
I needed to talk to somebody about this film, and if you are in my personal life and I reached out to you and I told you to watch Shithouse, that means you mean a lot to me. So
yeah,
people out there, not many, but I sent out the bat signal. I'm like, oh my god. Okay, so Shithouse. Do you want to introduce it for us here?
Yeah. So the IMDb plot synopsis for Shithouse is: a homesick college freshman goes to a party at Shithouse and ends up spending the night with his sophomore RA who's had a shitty day and wants someone to hang out with. And I did not know that going into it. I went in completely blind. I just knew the title and just watched it, which is what I totally prefer. And so
tell me about it.
So I didn't really have expectations going into it other than this is the most Luke movie you've seen in a while, which I could interpret a couple different ways, but
yeah, you're like, well, it's like not the time period of Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, but we'll give it a pass.
Gary, this wasn't the first Gary Oldman one; it's a different one, so I don't know.
Gary Oldman as a kid, or like,
yeah, is it like is it a prequel before they were
Gary
spies?
Oldman went to liberal arts school? What?
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's odd. But I kind of held off on my thoughts of it to you because I wanted to talk to you live about it. But I mean, yeah, I loved it, but this was like, it's like this even more so, really. But I was gonna say, like, I've talked about Ringo Livio on the show. I interviewed the director of that, friend of the show, Josh Koopman, is in it, and I said that was like maybe my favorite movie of the year, and it was like hard to watch because I resonated with it so much. And this was like a new level of painful that I've not felt before. I mean, I was in actual agony watching this. And it's like, I mean, I couldn't, I was like, why do they got to do me like that? You know? I mean, it was, I'm a little bit speechless about how, like, just insanely close to reality this was for me. And it didn't always feel good. But how did you find this movie?
So I had, this is crazy how we go about sort of finding information. I had just seen like a couple tweets from sort of movie people, reviewers that I respect and I like, and I just I kind of went off that. Again, I had didn't know anything, nothing about the film. And I was just like, okay, it was like a sort of slow Friday night, and it was just Amazon, the algorithm just put it right in front of my face. I was like, oh yeah, that thing. Like, let's just throw it up and just see what happens. And wow, I had like the same reaction almost. It's interesting because I think that we're like we're gonna resonate with two completely different people here.
Yep.
But some of the stuff in this movie, it really killed me. And I think this is probably the most it's probably the most of its time film that I've seen. I think, at least for maybe younger millennials, and then obviously, the kids that are Gen Z now, this is sort of their film. I watched a couple of weeks ago. I can't even table that.
Okay.
Table it. I'm thinking about the film here, but it's, again, it doesn't sound like a lot like what the film is about, and that's not really the point of it, but it hits at some things that I haven't really seen in a film for how we grow up and how we interact with each other. So yeah, what do you think?
Totally. This is like tapped into something that I think, this feels like a movie made about a time and a feeling and a place that I think we all collectively wanted to forget about and maybe just sort of left at that time. It's not really like, this is like such a, I mean, this hits so hard as a coming of age film, but not in a way that you expect, because it's in a time period that
it do be hitting different though.
Yeah. Oh my God. I mean, it's it's like, I wanted to ask you this. So
Okay.
the main character, played by Cooper Raiff, who's the writer and director of this film and star, which is just an
I'm
unbelievable talent. So
yeah.
he's on our list now. I mean, he's
I
our
actually
guy.
can't believe it.
Yeah, I can't either. And he does such a great job. But I mean, what was, because you and I and the listeners know this, we're different people. You know, we look at things differently, and and that's why it works. I'm poor Sarah, and you're Mank drunk on the bed. I mean, that's just how it works, you know.
Why do you put up with me?
Exactly.
A long drive in the morning.
So, I mean, like, what was your, what did you feel like a freshman in college? Now, granted, you've been in college for a long time. And you and I also had very different college experiences, and we can get into that too. But I'm just curious because I'm like, I watch this and think like I relate to the main character Alex so much, and just like being anxious and nervous and shy and not really knowing your place and feeling homesick and just like
liking one too many pictures on Instagram.
Don't even say that.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, I can't even, I was like, this is, why do I have to watch, why am I putting myself through this right now? Why do I have to relive this, you know? But I mean, I'm just curious because I when I watch this, I think like old legs I just don't see you relating to Alex in that way. So I mean, what was your freshman you know, college experience like? Were you nervous?
Yeah, so and again, like I was a little bit interested because we had, you know, I was more of the traditional 4-year going on 12 years of school now. But traditional 4-year school where you know, you go off and you're just kind of your own person. But uh, I I think we've all at some point felt that the that feeling of isolation that the Alex character played by Cooper Raiff feels. And so first off, my initial impressions, like it made me sad because
it is a bummer, man. It is a bummer.
That part of my life, even though I'm still in college, is done. You know?
Yeah.
I'm not going to be walking with a girl who I sort of know, but you know, it's just on my floor. And I'm not even like being like, you know, wistful of living in the dorms, but just like walking and talking again on some great walk and talk here, but the walking and talking till 4 or 5 in the morning, no real destination. We're just sort of killing time, right? We're here with each other because, you know, we're bored and we have this sort of thing where it's like, yeah, you know, I might like you, you might like me, and let's see where this goes. But that's done with, right? And I'm not really, you know, I'm not going to get that back. And I like my life now. Like you know, I couldn't make it till 5 in the morning. And I would just, but again, like I
felt nostalgic.
Here's where we get to the resignation part where I start vibing with a character, because I have never in my life felt so hard that breakfast burritos sound like a lot to me right now. Waking up in the morning, I want nothing to do with anything. I need to go be by myself on the elliptical, and I need to have a day to myself, because it's a lot right now. And that is I was like, I watched that, and then just like the oh my gosh, when she comes back and it's like, you're still here, and he's just like, yeah, like
Oh,
it's incredible. I don't even know what to say, and that's missing like the whole night, because I mean,
yeah,
they do this. I think it might be cheap to call it like a before midnight sort of thing, where they're just
right.
having this experience together, and that could have been the whole film, but it's
Mhm.
so much better that they play it out, and there's this like, oh my god, like maybe it isn't going to work between these two, right?
Yeah,
Because it usually doesn't in college. I mean, it's an
totally.
insane proposition that anything in college is going to work, because again, you're living for yourself, you're on your own, you're figuring out what you like, who you like, and yeah, 90% of these relationships are just not going to work. And so it's really curious to explore that on this level in this generation. So
Yeah, and just devoting so much time and a whole movie to, like I mentioned earlier, but just a time and things that we would all probably rather forget. And like I went to a technical college for 2 years, in and out. So you and I have almost the exact different college experiences. Got my degree and got out, but it's also, I didn't have like dorms. I never lived in dorms. There wasn't housing there, so there just wasn't that communal feel, and you didn't have that connection with people. I mean, connections maybe too strong a word, but you weren't forced in close proximity at all times to people. We were all basically commuters. So I mean, the isolation is real. I mean, when I was there, it was like, well, who do you even talk to? You would maybe talk to somebody that you had a class with or something, but you're just sort of sitting there alone throughout the day before you leave to drive home. And so it just, you hear from your friends who are in a more traditional college and doing more traditional college things, and you just sort of, you always think like the grass is maybe greener there. um but the isolation is really real. And yeah, I mean, I definitely sat around and thought like, oh, I'm in like the study part. I forget what it was called, but it was like a lounge, right? Like a student lounge. I'm sitting there, and there's like one girl who's sitting there who's like kind of cute. She's on the other side of the room, and she like has one headphone in but one not in, and she's just kind of sitting there like doing something. And
waiting,
you
waiting for you to say something.
exactly. And you know how many times I said something? Never.
Every time.
Yeah, never, not even once, not even close. But I played it out. I thought like, oh, I could go over there, and but then I never did it. And or like the God forbid, you're in a class with a girl, and then you're sitting by her, and you have to do an assignment with her, and then
Mm, that part.
all, yeah, lab partner, all of a sudden, next thing she's borrowing a pencil from you, and you think you just found the love of your life. If you're Luke, you're like, well, I'm in love with this person now.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I be? And then you find her Instagram,
Oh yeah.
and uh
And before you know it, she's saying that you're the character from 13 going on 30.
yeah.
Oh man. I so I watched this film twice. I I don't think I don't think I've had the desire to watch anything this year twice as much as I did. I just, again, I was sort of waiting for other people to watch it. I'm just like, I'm just gonna fire this up. I got another rental day on it. So uh but the writing here, it's it's so good because it's not trying to be something like overly smart or overly, like, they're not having like the like technical writing class style conversation that you might like expect.
Like
um,
Aaron Sorkin. Yeah, it's not
yeah,
like that.
it's not Sorkin, because like this isn't, these characters aren't going to go on to write an incredible screenplay and become Aaron Sorkin, right?
Mhm.
And so, but it makes it so much that much better. Like I was like writing down, like oh my gosh, when when he's looking through the dumpster, he's like, water bottles, that's not trash, that's recycle. Like I just like absolutely killed me. And it's one of the things I appreciate the most about this is that these are actual, like I talk to these kids every day. And I mean, that was another thing. It made me sad because, our kids can't do this right now, college freshmen, like it's just seeing people at a party, at a shitty college party at SHITHOUSE was just like, gosh, again, you're not wistful to go back, but you're just like, I remember that was something, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I don't know what I was gonna. I don't know
you just got lost in your nostalgia there. There was one Halloween party I went to while I was in college, and it was to my friend was like, hey, this girl that he and I went to high school with, she hit him up. This is when we were both freshmen, I think, in college. She hit him up, and they basically like hooked up. And then the next day, she was having a Halloween party. So she invited him to go to this Halloween party. And he felt weird about it. So he was like, Luke, will you just come with me to this Halloween party? Because I feel weird about going because we just whatever. And so I was like, yeah, sure. So we went. And, that was like, yeah, it was basically, it felt a lot like the shithouse scene, except like, I mean, nothing terrible happened. Like, we almost got kicked out. We thought the cops came. I yelled mangoes at a girl that I thought was really attractive, and that didn't work. That was like that. That could have been a
figure it out. You're still trying to.
I was still ironing it out. Yeah. Okay, so this could have been a scene in this movie, but so we're in the kitchen and there's a girl dressed as a vampire. And so she's got like, dark eyeshadow, kind of emo looking, which, I was into at the time. Maybe I still am. I don't know. And she's got vampire teeth, but she's just beautiful, just has these beautiful eyes, and like is just talking to my friend. And they're talking about this energy drink, and they're just sort of talking back and forth, and they're saying like, yeah, and it tastes like, oh, what is that? What does it taste like? What is the fruit? And they couldn't think of it, and I knew it. So in my head, I'm like, it tastes like mangoes, but I was just so transfixed by her that I wasn't saying it. And they're like, yeah, what is that? It's the thing. And I'm like, mangoes. And they're both like, look at me, and I'm like,
what's wrong?
Yeah, it's like it tastes like mangoes.
Yeah. So
yeah, been there.
Been there.
Yeah.
Yep. Shit my pants last night. And you were thinking like I was gonna. I a part of me, not all of me, but a part of me also resonates just a little bit with the stoner roommate friend who is just like perfect. There's not a whole lot of supporting roles in this. I mean, it's just essentially, you haven't even really mentioned the Maggie character played by Dylan Galula.
Yeah.
Who is also just I can't wait to.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see what they do. Both of them, they're so good. But between those three, and oh man, again, it's this thing where I'm sort of wistful and sad that it's over, but I just couldn't do it. Like the idea of going out 2 nights in a row is just, it's like alien to me. And so it's like, yeah, and also we got to wear wigs. Like it's just so good. What's the deal with roommates? It's so good. So, yeah,
one
ahead.
question you asked me toward the end, I'm wondering if should we ask this on here or not, or is it a spoiler if I ask you?
I don't know what is. Are you just asking about the ending? Okay, well, let's do a spoiler alert here.
Okay.
So I would say at this point, just go watch Shithouse. I mean, it's not like we're not, this isn't Seven, right? We're not,
Right.
it's not a necessarily like what's in the box type like giveaway that we're going here, because it is pretty ambiguous. But if you're at all interested in a really, really of the times coming of age film that is just incredibly written and incredibly acted by two really phenomenal young performers, just go watch it right now.
You're not going to find a more realistic one than this.
So, yep. So with that, yeah, let's go ahead and let's talk about the ending here. So
you asked me, or you didn't necessarily ask me, but you kind of posed the quote in a way. So I'll ask you, do you think that after because the ending is that they kind of decide to date, he sticks around and they'll be boyfriend and girlfriend for the summer. Do you think they last the summer?
Not a chance.
I don't think so either.
That's coming from, well, maybe it's a little bit, it's not that they don't have chemistry. They obviously have something. They have a connection. And I really like the idea, like the film could just be over when the Alex character sees his phone lights up and he sees that she liked one of his pictures. Like,
totally.
That's a perfect ending to the film.
Yep.
But I really do like the idea that it's not tomorrow, it's
a couple years
later. And that's normally how these things work. Like, especially when you're at college, you're at a small liberal arts college, you're still seeing these people, you see them around, you're maybe like in their orbit, not quite in their friend circle. And then it just sort of happens, right? And that's more true, I think, to how these things typically play out. Are they in it for the long haul? I don't know. I hope so. I want it to be. But gosh.
I think in that moment, they both obviously in the moment, they're both excited about it and they both think it's going to work, and they both think that they've grown up and that they can make it work. And we want to believe that as the audience too. And it ends on that note. And like you said, we needed like a happy ending. Like, that was a really nice.
I needed something.
So that's
like I couldn't watch another horror film. I watched the Dark and the Wicked, and I'm just like a soulless shell of myself. I felt nothing, and I was like, holy, I need to switch it up a little bit, because I'm just not getting the same mileage that I normally am out of these films. So I needed something that was going to make me feel good, and it delivers on that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they do either. I just don't think they're grown up enough to really make it work. You want them to. They've grown up a little bit, but I just don't know.
That's a lot coming from you, because I mean, between us, you are absolutely the hopeless romantic, and I just need some space.
Yeah. Oh my God. I know, dude. Oh, my heart breaks. What? Just get breakfast burritos.
You're so mean.
I know. You're so mean to me. Like, I wish I would have said that to so many people. Like, God, what's wrong with getting breakfast burritos? Like, it'll just be like last night. We'll be fun. We'll be talking, but it'll just be during the day.
Yeah. I thought we had a good time.
Yeah.
We did.
Yeah.
And now I'm trying to have another good time. Woo! Yeah. In the BuzzFeed character quiz, I am 1,000% a Maggie 1,000% of the time.
And I'm 1,000% Alex 1,000% of the time.
So hey, that's maybe
that's our relationship.
We've been together for a little over 5 years now. So who knows? Maybe there's hope. Maybe there's hope for Maggie and Alex. So I really enjoyed it. I think it's something that maybe we need right now. Something that's going to make you feel good, make you sad. This was definitely like a laugh cry movie.
Yeah.
And probably a pretty good date movie too. It's up there.
It's a good call. It's better than Prometheus. You and I both went to Prometheus on a date separately before we were friends.
Yeah, and I do love, so again, kind of pulling back the curtain when I was like, yeah, hey, and it's it'd be a great date movie, Luke, and immediately red flags went up for you. You're like what? Are you sure? Like it, and maybe that's warranted. Like you're thinking I'm recommending like you watch like fucking House That Jack Built or something like that. So I get it. I deserve that. But this time I wasn't lying. I wasn't trolling you. So
you were right.
So
well,
that's all I got. So Shithouse, check it out. I'm really excited to see where some of these people go, and I'll probably watch it again here before the year's out. So
yeah, I'm definitely gonna watch it again. I'll probably buy it and watch it periodically when I want to feel sad and nostalgic and have my anxiety flare up. But yeah, definitely, loyal listeners, go out and see Shithouse. It's got the L squared stamp of approval. Quote, one of our favorites.
It is one of our favorites, and I will also say too, Dylan Galula, the girl who plays Maggie in it, incredible Twitter account. And
really?
I found myself, it was late at night, and I was like looking at a thing of hers, and I almost liked it, but then I was like, wait.
Yeah, you're so much.
I also wonder too. I'm like, I wonder how many like creepers just went through and watched the movie and just started like
liking every single one.
Just out of like, ooh, a joke. I wonder if anyone's done this, and I got way excited about it. But
yeah, of course.
I'm a Maggie who's also. Wow. I feel like we should have them both on the pod.
We should.
If you're listening, Cooper, Dylan, come on out.
Please.
Right?
Oh my God. Let's hit him up. I'm going to hit him up on Twitter. We're going to get him on. We're going to do a full 3-hour deep dive on it. But go see Shithouse. See Mank. Do some homework. See Citizen Kane.
Mank, I guess.
That's whatever.
That's good. I don't know if that's going to get Fincher on.
Well,
the ship has sailed.
Yeah, exactly. I think we missed the boat probably for a couple different reasons on that one, but
recommendation there. I love it.
Yeah, but yeah, loyal listeners, go check those out. Let us know what you thought about them. You can find me on Twitter at LukeLarson89. Find this podcast at L Squared Podcast on Twitter. We're on Instagram. You can like all of our posts. We will not take offense to that. You can also find us on Facebook at L2 Podcast, and everywhere your podcasts are streamed. You can find us, subscribe on Spotify so you get the notifications every time a new L Squared podcast comes hot off the press for you. So thanks for tuning in, and until next time.
It's been good, buddy. Peace.